Hi Andre, this is Greg Weeks for Sprint 4. So I have a lot to catch up on here, so I'm just going to go through all of my basic ABB and OBB collisions real quick from Sprint 2 and 3. So just going to give you a brief demo to show you that all of that is working. So this is ABB versus ABB. We have an enemy tank there, that's the black one, and I'm the player over here, so this is just axis aligned bounding box collision with another axis aligned bounding box, and visually you can see that that is working just fine. Alright, so let's swap this. My naming conventions are axis box, box, and sphere, because I figured the user would be more familiar with what that is, rather than ABB and OBB, but I don't know, it'd probably be easier just to change it to ABB and OBB. Alright, so we've got a bounding sphere versus AABB. Alright, and visually that seems to be working just fine. Cool. Alright, so now I'm going to go to box, which is an OBB. I'm going to swap both of these to OBB and OBB. Oops. Camera's kind of funky. Alright. So, as you can see, that is working as intended. No funny business. Alright, cool. I'll swap the enemy to an AABB. Alright, so this is OBB versus AABB. So that one is working just fine. And I'll show you all the math after this as well, just to prove that this is actually happening. Can bump into the cottage as well, just to show you that the sphere and the AABB and OBB are all working together. Alright, I think that about does it. I can put a sphere on this guy, and I think that'll cover all the tests that we have to do. Alright, so OBB and bounding sphere. Cool. Alright, so this is using the visitor pattern as it should be. Scroll up here real quick. So I've got all my volumes on the right hand side over here. So collision volume as a base class. And then we've got our visits and accepts. Cool. So I've got my compute data for AABB, which is probably a little bit too convoluted. Yeah, I've got a lot of temporary variables there, which I am not proud of, but that's how it is right now. Alright, I'm going to swap over to the PW math tools because that is significantly more interesting. So I decided to create a method get projection just to get the projmax for the OBB collision, and I just duplicated that for the AABB and swapped out the necessary variables instead of creating a base class. So that's how I approached that specific thing. But we've got OBB versus OBB math here, straight out of the lecture slides from the math class. So that's how that is working. Yeah, not much to discuss here. It's literally just math ripped out of the math class, and it's pretty much all based on the slides. But it did take quite a bit to implement. So we've got our ABB and B-sphere and ABB interval testing going on here. So I've got an interval method. I don't believe this is actually used. So I'm pretty much just doing the method for a point intersection on an OBB, but I don't think I actually ever call that. But if I do need it, it's there, so that's good. Okay, so that about does it for my catch-up work. So OBB and AABB is working as expected. Cool, so let me move on to the tiered collision. So I haven't completed it, unfortunately. I got relatively far. Let me just show you what I have working so far. So I pretty much just have a sphere that sort of truncates down to an ABB, and that's about as far as I got. For whatever reason, there's no collision on anything other than the two tanks in the scene, and I just kind of ran out of time, wasn't able to figure that out. But as you can see, as these guys collide, their ABBs, or their... Is that ABB? Yeah, one of them's ABB and one of them's OBB. So they like get triggered and sort of activate after the B spheres actually collide. So that's pretty much all I have actually working in terms of the tiered collision. So I don't have the full system yet. But let's see. So let's just kind of walk through how I did that. So I've pretty much only worked on test pair command, and this is just a series of checks to see whether or not I'm actually getting collision on the B sphere and then truncating down to the AABB. So we're checking the massive AABB, which like doesn't appear for whatever reason. So yeah, I'm still kind of in the debugging phase with this. Let's see. So if I go over to collidable group, just give me 1 second here. Okay, so this is where the brunt of the work was being done. Okay, I couldn't really figure out how to create a new group AABB, and I think I managed to do it. Because I just have like set AABB, and that's like a new collision volume that's called elsewhere. But that was just kind of a pain because I wasn't able to actually just call a new collision volume in collidable group because the templates were yelling at me. But pretty much this is the brunt of it. So what I'm doing is pretty much what you explained in class. So everyone has a B sphere, and that's defined in collidable. So if you take a look at collidable over here, so I've got default sphere, and when the user sets the collision volume, I just automatically create a new B sphere and pass in the model to that. So in update collision data, I'm always updating the default sphere. That might not be the correct approach. That might be why I'm having issues. And then this should actually take the group AABB, and then it's going to get all the default B spheres. And then if we actually go look at AABB, I implemented the method that you mentioned in the slides, where we're taking in a bounding sphere, and then we're keeping track of the min point and the max point, and then just setting the min and max to those points. So we're just taking the radius of the B sphere, adding it to the center, and subtracting it from the center, and then we're finding the min and max point that way. So yeah, that system it looks correct. It looks correct to me, but the implementation, obviously you saw it's not working 100%, so I gotta sit down and debug for a few more hours, but I didn't have a few more hours as I finished this at 6 a.m. So hopefully by next week I'll be pretty much all caught up in all facets of this. I haven't done any work for my research project or the game itself. But yeah, like I said, next week should be significantly better now that I've caught up pretty significantly as well. Alright, I will see you in class.